Welcome, 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 everyone, to Two Guys in Hockey Talk. My name is Pawel the Cat with my wonderful co-host, Evan Renaerts. Evan, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fabulous tonight, man. I am looking to another great fan-packed show, guys. We want to interact with you. We got lots to cover tonight, right from the NHL across the seas to the KHL, all around what's happening throughout North America and all the junior leagues. We got lots to talk on trades, even though that obviously we're just a little ways away. And on top of it, Pavel's got a rant for you tonight. So look out, buddies. We're ready to go.
We are. We have a jam-packed show, so let's get right into it. But remember, guys, we are here every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We bring you all the latest and greatest. We've got a website where we've got articles going up. I got one today again up. Go check it out at twoguysinhockeytalk.com. We love hearing from you. Give us a follow on YouTube. It really helps us out. Evan?
Can I give a shout out right now? So
Sure.
We are in the Edmonton area. Pavel doesn't know this, but I'm working right now with some of the reps at the Edmonton Oil Kings. We're going to be looking next season, by the way, to get some season tickets there, buddy, for Two Guys in Hockey Talk. So we're going to have season tickets so we can scout out more what's going on, check out the latest news, and be able to meet some guys in the GM managers, some of the WHL behind the scenes, as well as get some exclusives. Potentially, we might be able to get some interviewing from behind the scenes with guest teams and stuff. So that's a brand new surprise to Pavel here tonight. And we'd also like to announce, we're not sure when, but you stay tuned. We have a satire show. If you guys liked Saturday Night Live, you're going to love when we do a special Two Guys in Hockey Talk live on a Wednesday night live.
We're going to do a little something for you guys because I think you'll enjoy it. But we got to get to the news, Evan. So grab your beverage. I've got my whiskey. My throat's under the weather. I apologize. I am battling a cold, but that's what happens when you have children who get sick nonstop. You just kind of deal with the thing. So, Evan, I know you wanted to get into it. So the NHL, lots happening, lots of movements. You wanted to talk a little bit about Zane Parekh, the defenseman for Saginaw Spirit for the Calgary Flames. He's got some pretty impressive stats right now with 21 goals, 38 assists at 59 points. Very impressive. But the Flames are in a bit of a weird position right now because they're still kind of competing for a playoff spot, although they lost to Toronto last night. But they're being very competitive, and there's really not a lot of expectation from Craig Conroy that they're in a rebuild. It's kind of a retooling, and they are really pushing themselves and potentially going far in the postseason. They just traded for Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee out of Philadelphia, so they seem to be picking up some guys. And now there's been a lot of rumblings, and specifically from Pierre LeBrun, that they are interested in Dylan Cousins. And we're going to get into why, given the caps going up later. But Evan, kind of your thoughts on what's going on there, because would Buffalo part with someone like a second line center like Dylan Cousins? And what do the Flames do? I know we have a lot of Flames fans here tuning in tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a heads out to all you Alberta fans that follow the Calgary Flames and other parts of the globe. Even I know there's a bunch of people in the U.S. and Northern that we hear about from. And thanks, guys, for all your stuff. So as you mentioned, it's been revealed, like you said, by Pierre LeBrun, that they may not be done making moves just yet. And they have a lot of interest in prying Cousins from the Sabres. But there has been talk, even though Bowen Byron and Rasmus Dahlin have worked really well in Buffalo together, that could they get a package deal? Now, here's the problem. Buffalo's not interested in futures at all, but the Flames aren't interested in trading for a rental player. So we get it. Cousins would be right because he signed through 29-30. Now, they're not shopping Anderson. They're not shopping Kadri and or Uyghur. So the Canucks or Flames are going to get that final playoff spot in the end. I'm looking at the numbers. You guys check them. Right now, I'm looking essentially if you look at who's already there. So right now, the bottom two, there's going to be one position for sure that's going to be filled in these last approximately 30 games for most teams by Colorado and or one of the teams just above them. So you're really looking at that last wild card looking like a Canuck or the Flame. So who would it be? Well, that's the question. Do you want to go all in or not? And I don't know. Maybe you guys can throw it out there. Pavel, who do you think they're not moving Anderson, Kadri, or Uyghur? Who could they trade off? Is it possible because Cousins' contract? And if they took Bowen Byron, that they would give up because they don't want futures. They want a player now. Who could they do? I don't see them taking Huberdeau unless they're going to absorb a big chunk of that to go to Buffalo. And I just don't see them wanting an older player. So I don't even know if it's possible.
You make a good point. I think what took a lot of people by surprise was the fact that Jacob Pelche went. He's been in and out of the lineup, as you know. He's been doing well. I mean, he's trying to figure out his way, getting really like good minutes, but clearly they felt like he wasn't part of their future, so they got rid of him. Kuzmenko went over to Philly because he's really good friends with Michkov, and as we've talked about on this show, the Flyers are in the rebuild. Jamie Baskal knows him, and they're good friends, of course, so they wanted him to play with a winger he knows, someone who's Russian. So, you know, when you have a fellow quote-unquote comrade playing alongside you, it's much easier to play the game. And so I see it as I didn't think those guys would be untouchable. Maybe Kuzmenko, given that he's in his final year and he's a little older, 28, 29. But Pelche was surprisingly a shock. Now, could I see them maybe packaging somehow Vladar? I know Dustin Wolf is their number one guy. He's really come out of the woodwork and could be their number one after getting rid of Markstrom. They do need a backup, but again, as you indicated, they're not really rebuilding, and they could place anybody in that role. So maybe Vladar is someone that they can dangle to a team that needs a goaltender that can play. And let's be honest, Buffalo could use some good quality goaltending. Given that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and Devin Levi are still kind of unproven long-term, right? So you want someone with a little bit more grit and experience to bring in. But it's hard to indicate. You guys can let us know. Would you trade Jonathan Huber?
Yeah.
I mean, he's really brought it. You don't want to trade your captain, Michael Backlund, who's really the glue of that team. I know there was interest in Kadri. He's not going anywhere. He likes where he's at. He's filling in his role. Maybe if you're thinking about it, what's his name? Blake Coleman, older vet, has won a cup, knows how to play. He's coming up to the end. I think he's got one more year left after this.
Where's he going though? Buffalo's probably not picking up an older player though, right?
But they need some vet guys who have been there and won.
Good point. That's a good point.
We can talk about how Buffalo didn't respond after that hit on I think it was Tage Thompson, and how the team had an internal meeting about it. Alex Tuck made a point that, you know, we need some grit and response. We can't just let it be. No, not every team plays like that. But the problem is, Evan, you need people to respond when some of your players get hit. You need to get back.
So that's a good point. But you know, one thing I wonder about, so right now, the Flames are doing well in their development. And someone who is actually, we'll talk later about some of the draft picks, but they drafted a guy whose brother will be drafted at least minimum top 3 this year. And that's Michael Misa. But they have his brother from a couple seasons ago, who's playing with Porter Martone, who also will be drafted top 4 this year, from the Brampton Steelheads. He's got 27 goals in 47 games. Luke Mista. And I wonder, he's a little bit smaller. I know they're not always one, but they got some big boys over there. Could that be a throw-in? Because you have a good player that's gotten some early development. You know how they let go of, I think they let Savoy go because they were thinking that Zach Benson was having this good development. Then they saw this curve and drop off with Benson. I'm not sure if they go that way. I know Jeffrey Add, who follows us, and he's with Heavy Hitters, and also is a fan of pro wrestling. But, you know, he might have a different opinion on that. But I'd like to hear everyone's thoughts, though, for what they think on this. Are we there? Oh, you muted yourself. You muted yourself.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I muted myself. I was going to say, I was looking up and down the lineup, and you think to yourself, like, Rasmus Anderson wants to stay there, and you want to sign him. And what's that contract going to look like? I'm looking at the Morgan Riley number, where you're looking between like 7.5 to 8.5 million for a few years, especially the higher the AV. And we know the cap's going up, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later. But really, like, who are you dangling? And Mackenzie Weegar, another great guy who I'm sure a lot of teams would appreciate, and he was part of that big trade from Florida. I mean, he's already being eyed up for Canada.
Yeah,
no, I know, but he's being eyed for Team Canada given his grit and physicality. The team likes what they have. They don't want to get rid of it. And let's give a little bit of credit to Joel Hanley. People don't know this guy enough. He's a left-handed paying top pair minutes. The guy is an elite. I've seen some big hits he's thrown. I've liked it. Keep an eye out for this guy because, you know, those are a dime in a dozen guys that you find. But it's going to be hard to see how they're going to proceed because it's really interesting. Now, the problem is that there's not much on the market left, and we've seen some wild trades even in the NBA, which I was shocked at what happened with Dallas Mavericks and the Lakers. But the other Dallas team out there, the Stars, also made their own trade. So Jim Nill ended up picking up from the San Jose Shark Mr. Cody Ceci, the right-hand defenseman, along with Michael Granlund, who has some history playing in Nashville with some of the Dallas players. And Matt Duchene was very excited to have Michael Granlund there. Now, they've both, played on a very struggling San Jose team. Makes sense. They're rebuilding. But, Evan, Dallas is loading up because Miro Heiskanen just got through surgery, and he's now not only out of the Four Nations, but he's eyeing his return potentially for the playoffs. Maybe first round, probably the second round, given how Dallas can go far. But they gave up a first and a conditional third, which could be the fourth if Dallas makes it to the Stanley Cup final. Your thoughts on this trade and what it means for Dallas?
I don't know if you saw Sportsnet announce it as a third, and that was only if Dallas goes to the Stanley Cup. So they go, we're predicting, I guess. Elliot Friedman said, I guess we're predicting that they're going to the Stanley Cup because we wrote it's a third. It shows you how he kind of just works with it, because you always got to work with live television. I'd like to understand this from Oilers fans. They said that Cody Ceci is not a very good defenseman. And because he went to San Jose, I think they thought he's washed up. And because they're not a great team, why would he be picked up? And they want to re-sign him, actually, if they can, before the timeline comes up here. So why would you want that if the guy's not that good a defenseman? He never got the credit he deserved. And 100%. I actually think that was an actual bad move for Edmonton. I get why they did it, but I think it was a bad move, guys.
100%. And I think really he's a serviceable guy. He's coming up on 800 plus games. He's played over 80 in the playoffs. He did well in Edmonton. He's a great penalty killer. He can play high minutes. Again, you have to depend on how you shelter him in terms of, do you want him playing 25 minutes a night or between 18 to 21 minutes a night? Because then he can perform for you and really make an impact. And he's been a quiet guy. Fun fact, he's married to a woman who is sisters with a woman who's married to Mark Stone. So him and Mark Stone are mother-in-laws, right?
Does that mean he's going to Vegas next?
Probably. They're going to pick him up, right? But again, he's really able to do what they need, and they need depth. And there's nothing wrong with having depth. No. And Dallas knows that in the Central and in the West, there's some big teams. There's Edmonton. There's Colorado, right? You got to load up and be prepared because it's a long battle. And when you get injuries, it's next man up. But there's definitely a lot there. Now, Evan, the Canucks saga is kind of finally over, right? Can we say that? I know you're wearing the gear, but I think it's finally over. JT Miller has headed over to the New York Rangers. He's played a few games. He's gotten their back. He's good friends with Vincent Trocheck, living with him. I'm sure he's very happy that JT Miller's there. It's quieted down the noise for Vancouver, who went out and also traded that conditional first pick that they got from New York to Pittsburgh for Marcus Pettersson, along with a few other players. And so what do you think of the Canucks right now, given what they picked up, what they traded away, and what is that expected of Elias Pettersson, the number one Pettersson there?
Yeah. Yeah, because they got three with Marcus coming in. So the play-by-play, can you imagine all three playing if all three are in on a goal? Pettersson from Pettersson. I mean, that's going to be a tongue.
Did you watch Pettersson on that play? Pettersson did not help Pettersson at all.
Oh, man. They pulled the Pettersson. Well, which Pettersson did they pull with it? So interesting enough. Hey, JT Miller, if you guys don't recall, that's where he started his career in New York. So, I mean, it was just he had only like about 35 games there before he was, was it 35? I think 80. So 4 or 5 seasons he had. Again, he didn't really come out until what year was it? Until he started with the Canucks. That was his coming out. It seemed like from that point on, other than just one season, he was 0.8. So it's interesting. He's one of those late risers But guys, don't forget that Steven Draisaitl took about 4 years in before he became the player that he is today. He was good after in his second year in the NHL, but he was not the player he was until 4 years in. So this is an interesting one. This is kind of, I think it's a great move because they needed. Like Cheadle is a great player, as you know. One of our friends, Alex Thomas, will tell you when he played down with the Hartford Wolfpack. He's the former play-by-play that we used to have on our show, but the Rangers won't let him on, so they jinxed themselves. The moment that happened, they haven't been able to win. Wonder why. But this is what I think. I'm wearing my, you notice here, thanks to the Lost Trucker for sending this in. I have my Johnny Canuck, the AHL farm team. I got the Canucks hat on here. If you guys are saying, and by the way, when I'm sporting gear or Pavel sporting gear in the background, we're wearing it. It doesn't mean that's our favorite team. I don't know why. Even our guests come on and they just automatically assume we are two guys and hockey talk. So anything hockey, we have what we like. But believe me, when your team's not doing that well, you jump on and find more exciting hockey. But this is what I like to say. I feel like it's a little bit of a jungle out there right now in the movement up and down. So having said that, I still think they're going to get that final playoff spot, but it's really going to depend on Thatcher Demko now down the stretch here.
Yes.
And Pettersson will have to up that play. Let's just say Pettersson's not out of this yet. Probably the most of all the GMs right now, Rutherford has pulled off the most big trades. And he is not scared to pull a trade for Pettersson. And you know what? If I was another team, I know he's got a big bill, I'd move now. In fact, we know that they've been after Dylan Cousins. Now, the whole idea is Buffalo was looking at Pettersson, not Miller. If they had traded and Cousins couldn't have been a part of that, well, he's that much closer to the Yukon. And could they pull off a Bowen Byron with the Dylan Cousins? I think they have a better chance than Calgary to be able to move that if they move out on Pettersson. They have the room then in the cap space for a re-signing as an RFA for Bowen Byron, and that would help them on their back end a little bit more. So I actually think that you're going to see some more movement here before the trade deadline. Let's just say I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 possibility that Cousins and goes to Vancouver. I'm thinking Pettersson, but they might have something else up their sleeve. Now, you have something that you've been rambling around about Quinn Hughes. And some thoughts.
Yes, but before I get to that, I think you had a little bit of a silly pun and double entendre where you said cat space, not cap space. So I know that you're dealing with the cat here myself, but it's cap, not cat. But yeah, it sounds like Quinn Hughes has been held out of the lineup for the last few games. They're not saying what. They're not even saying upper or lower body injury, which, is a little bit worrisome. I know he's gone through a bit previously a few weeks back. That being said, does this mean that he's going to take time off away from the Four Nations coming up here in a week's time, or is he going to play through it, or do the Canucks even want to get rid of their best defenseman? Because Evan, as you were reporting, Mr. Carson Soucy is on the block, and so they need all hands on deck. They need everyone to be healthy and performing because the Canucks can still make the playoffs. They're still able to battle out for that wild card spot. And I really think that they need Quinn Hughes to be there. And if Quinn Hughes is not 100% for whatever reason, and he's come back and played injured, and players will play through anything, but you need him to be a little bit better, at least 90% through the playoffs. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to do a deep run. So that's one of those things that you should keep an eye on. Canucks fan, there's no need to panic because I think the noise has really quieted down since JT Miller left. I did see a funny tweet today that said Vancouver has the opportunity to do the silliest and funniest thing, and that's trade Pettersson to the New York Rangers again to recreate the saga of JT Miller and EP. But no, there's definitely something that they can work on. But go ahead.
I just want to put one last comment on that whole reason why Miller got traded, not Pettersson, because really Miller's the one that's producing in comparison to Pettersson right now. Pettersson has more up years though, right? And he's younger. Get that.
6 years old, 100 season.
But I want everyone to remember back. I'm not saying, but I'm saying, remember he took some time off. People were talking about his family and his wife. I want you to think he went off. He didn't talk about it. He says, what problem? He goes, anything. In other words, he downplayed it. but we know what's been going on. Rutherford come out with his comments, and who do they trade? And I said this on our show last week. It's Miller who's going. It's not Pettersson, at least in the beginning. We'll see what Rutherford wants to do. But anyway, I think if they get what they want for Pettersson, he's out of there. They'll bring some other guys in because if they can unload that contract now and move on, it's going to help them in the future. We better get moving. We got lots to cover.
We got lots to cover. So tonight we've got the rant of the night.
Puckpedia brings you
Rant of the Night.
calling all hockey fans. Stay on top of your game with Puckpedia. It's the ultimate source for NHL salary cap information.
So, rant of the night. I'm going to get into this a little bit. It's not the best of topics. Rest in peace, Johnny Hockey and his brother. We've lost a great, great man. Now, the legal proceedings are happening. The driver who killed them has been in court. And Mr. Sean H. Higgins, M.M. Higgins, he indicated that he wanted to bring into evidence the fact that the brothers also had some blood alcohol levels on them in order to prove that he wasn't completely responsible for their deaths, and that part of the reason why they were there is because they were a little bit inebriated, and so that's why they got hit. Evan, that's bullshit, okay? Stop blaming other people drinking, riding a bike on your mishap, on your silliness, on your stupidity. You killed two people. You are showing no remorse. You took the lives of two beautiful humans and their families, and you decided, oh, you know what? I'm going to continue to make this the worst thing for their family. Their families are still grieving. They're still dealing with a lot. Was there blood alcohol? Sure, maybe, and the courts will decide if that had any impact. But why? Why would you continue to do this? You are guilty. This guy, lock away and throw the key. I'm sorry. I think it's BS. This guy is a piece of garbage. You killed two humans. You were drunk driving. That's never acceptable. No one's ever going to convince me otherwise. Get out of here with that BS. That's all I got to say. That's my rant. You want to add anything?
Now, that's the rant, and I can't beat it, of the night.
Rant of the night.
Puckpedia brings you
Rant of the Night.
calling all hockey fans. Stay on top of your game with Puckpedia. It's the ultimate source for NHL salary cap information.
All right. Well, there's no easy way to transition from something like that. But
No. Can I just
Evan
say,
does.
can I just say, just as a follow-up to what you mentioned, let's just say we didn't really maybe we didn't perceive it right. And there isn't, I don't know. Let's just say it's not as easy and simple as it sounds, this whole incident that caused the death of these two young men. Let's just say, okay, hypothetically, anyone in their right mind is going to find a different strategy with their lawyers to not say what he said. You know what I'm saying? So if he thought what he thought, don't bring it out that way. You know what? Go on AI and learn how to actually reword and rephrase what you need to say in the public. I think that that's even a bigger thing, because if they're trying to defend themselves, then okay, say it different, because it sounds like there's no remorse. So I 100% agree with you.
Well, like I said, there's no easy way to change this, but we're going to get into Rev's top 15 because we love prospects and we want to see who these guys can become one day. So let's get into Rev's top 15.
Rev's Top 15.
Brought to you by the electronic hard rock band Penny Billionaires. Look for them wherever you find your music.
All right, we have our in-house resident Rev, the Ev man who knows everything about these young junior players. He goes to games. He watches tape. He knows the scorecards. What do you got for us tonight, Evan?
Oh man, it's been so fun checking. First of all, I want to thank all of the connections that we have built over these years, plus my former guys that I've worked with, whether they're pro scouts, minor scouts, junior hockey, agents, all the guys that have participated, even some former players. Just gathering information is so hard when you're not able to travel the world per se with them. So I just want to make mention too, if you are following, you're not familiar, my Revs Top 15 is how I see the top 15 over their career as they're coming into the draft. Not what the mock will be of the actual picks, not what they'll be in 5 years as Craig Button, or what the scouts are saying. And having said that, I totally went off, and I know Jordan last week, he says, Evan, man, he's all over the board. Well, I'm just going to say that I still have Michael Misa, and it's going to be there for a while. He is my number one still. By the way, he's only ranked number one by 2 scouting agencies. Well, he's ranked number 2 by 2 other scouting agencies, and otherwise he's essentially ranked in 3. But I still see him because he's been consistent. 44 games, guys, 40 bloody goals with 88 points. James Hagen's dropped. You know what? He probably likely will drop in my standings to 3. Now, it's because 5 scouting agencies have him ranked number 1. 2 put him to 3, and he has also got 1 sitting at a 4th overall out of 16 major ranked scouting agencies. 25 games, 29 points in Boston College. Come on. What's going on, James? You got to produce more than that to be a number 1. Number 3, Matthew Schaefer. Here's the problem. People have him ranked number 1 right now. 10 scouting agencies see him number 1 now. I think it's the shiny new object. And I know, Jordan, you might be one of those guys, but he is the shiny new object. And besides, Jordan, he's not WHL. By the way, if you guys aren't familiar, check out old shows between me and Jordan. But I actually think until I see him come back from this injury, see how well he can play, he's got to go 30 straight games doing what he was doing prior to the injury. I just don't think he's going to be able to show that before. People like him, but I think they're going to be sorry taking him if they take him number 1 overall. Now, Porter Martin stays in the 4th place. The guy is doing great. 16 scouting agencies have him, other 16. 1 has him ranked 2nd, 1 has him 3rd, but really the rest all have him at 4. I think that's a given. He is at 4. Right now, the top 3, Hagen, Schaefer, and Misa, top pairing group. That's a little group of 3, and it can change. 4 is locked in with Porter Martin. And now it opens up to about another 4 or 5 players. At number 5, I kept Roger McQueen. I think he's going to drop once he gets back. He's got just getting back now. So I still left him at 5. 6, Victor Eklund. He's doing well, 32 games in playing pro. He's got 20 points over in Sweden. Now, Ryabkin, he's now got in his 9 games, 9 points, but he's got 6 goals. He's a scorer playing down in the USHL. We put Anton Frundell finally making some good moves. His shot and his goal-scoring habits kind of set the tone for his team. He is incredibly good when it comes to his defense. Number 9 this week, though, I have put Caleb Disnoyer. He's 6'2", 179-pound center from Moncton, guys. 41 games, 65 points. Look out. He's been in the junior systems a while. And before I wrap up and get a little bit further into who our future watch is, I just want to say, right now, the future watch, not for this year, but for next year, he's a draft 1 year out, Gavin McKenna. He is setting up to make history in Jordan's favorite WHL. Again, check out past shows if you want to hear about Jordan. His current 2.08 points per game on the campaign would be the highest full season mark in WHL history for a draft -1 prospect. You imagine that. If he maintains that, that means he would get 124 points in 54 games. 2 points a game is 108. That means better than Connor Bedard, who is his cousin. And then the future draft, which is 2 years out, draft 2, and he's 15 years old, 47 games in, he's got 50 points, defenseman, right-handed, in the Everett Silvertips, where our scouting U.S. head scout, Michael Devolano, who's been a regular guest on our show. Remember, the guy's 15. It's a long season. It's expected to be a lull for this kid at 15. So expect to see him go, though. Pavel, I know Lush Trucker asked and a few others. Listen, I expect him to go supernova in the next 2 months. And I'm expecting it probably around 1.5 points a game as they round out the season. So anyway, that puts me in there. And that leaves us, if we had a mock draft today, Pavel, where would we be sitting if they voted according to and selected according to what I just gave you?
So I think if you're indicating what it is, the Sharks would go after Matthew Misa. The Blackhawks would go after James Hagens. Nashville would pick up Matthew Schaefer. And, of course, makes sense. They need goal scoring. Buffalo would go after Porter Martin. And Seattle would pick up Roger McQueen, and they need some good draft picks. And then the Flyers and or Anaheim, depending on where they fall, would probably go after Victor Eklund. That's kind of what I see it as. But
that's crazy, man.
It'd be interesting to see. But we have something to comment, but I will just finish this off. This is tonight's Revs Top 15.
Revs Top 15.
brought to you by the electronic hard rock band Penny Billionaires. Look for them wherever you find your music.
So we have some breaking news that Bomba Class Star is revealing that Marcus Pettersson has extended with Vancouver for 6 years at $5.5 million. And he says, and Evan told us he wasn't extending. Evan, I'll let you rebuttal.
Who? Marcus Pettersson?
Marcus Pettersson, the guy who they just traded for that we talked about earlier.
No, but someone's saying that I said he's not
Evan told us
resigning.
his name is Bomba Class.
Okay, Bomba Class Traveler. Hey, dude. Hey, appreciate your comments, but I have no idea what you're talking about. That Marcus Pettersson is not resigning. Not even sure on that one, but hey, good try though. Go find the clip and Jim. I will take a dirty sock, and I will put it in my mouth if you can find the clip that shows that I said that. Because yeah, I never said it. But anyway, bud. Thanks for commenting.
It seems like you've got some competition. I wouldn't be surprised if that was Jordan in disguise as a bot.
Hey, but can I just say that's wonderful news for them?
Yeah, no, that's
wonderful
a good
news.
signing for them. They needed that.
And a fair price for a veteran guy too.
Well, and I want to quickly get into, I know we have quite a bit. We're going to get into the cap in a bit, but I wanted to talk about Utah and the names. It's been brought up that the Mammoth, Outlaws, and HC continue to be it, even though the Yeti pick is on the one shaped like a mountain. Your thoughts on the names and what could potentially be? I think Outlaws is what I would like, and we talked about it even when Jordan was on the show, but I think Mammoth is the safe bet.
Yeah, you didn't have Outlaws, though, at the time when Jordan was on, right?
No, we did not.
Yeah, because they didn't even have that on their top 5, so I found that interesting. But I had heard that early on. I just like the name Outlaws. It's not truly an Out West. It doesn't really match, but sometimes you don't have to have a name that matches all the time. You try too hard. I don't know. I've grown on the name Mammoth, but let's face it, that's kind of woolly mammoth. Is that really what Salt Lake would be about? Do they think that's where the Ark was, Noah's Ark, and the mammoth came off it? I don't know. Got stuck in the mountains at Wasatch. But I got to tell you, I like the Yeti and the hockey club logo, but I just don't like the name hockey club. So I'm going with Outlaws. I think it's still the best name. But did you see their graphics that they were posting? They look like they were ECHL graphics. Come on, guys. Get better than that, Smith Group.
Yeah, there's definitely, some interesting designs that they presented. But, I mean, whatever they believe is what it was. And he says, and Evan told us he wasn't extending. I don't know if that was from earlier. We're getting it. Anyways, so you guys can let us know which name you like best and which one you'd like to see on a jersey and if you'd purchase a Utah jersey. Now, Evan, I don't like to get political, but it's been a little bit of a political week here in Canada and the U.S. And I don't know if you've seen, there's been a few fan bases booing during the national anthem. Now, things happening, aside, not only did the Florida Panthers get a chance to go to the White House, a tradition that's from the 19th century, which I learned today, so it's a fun fact. But the NHL was one of the more later teams to start it, with the Pittsburgh Penguins of 91 that ended up going to the White House to have an honorary meeting with the president. But it seems like with everything happening with the tariffs between Canada and the U.S., it's gotten into the point where fan bases such as the Ottawa fan base and the Vancouver fan base were booing. Then there were a few fans at the Nashville game that were booing. Your take on this whole situation?
Yeah, I don't even get it. It doesn't even make sense. Like right now, what's going on? Like, what does a hockey game got to do with it? You know how we talked about even the 4 nations? If you're only having NHL players, they're allowed to play in the NHL. They're Russian. You're not honoring Russia by doing it. And even call them a different name like they did in the Olympic, where they're independent of Russia, but they're still Russia. I remember the reason they had the Soviet Summit Series was because of that. And that was all political, right? Stuff. And they tried to bring people together with hockey. Now, what are you doing? Trying to separate? Like maybe part of this, Pavel, this is part of my concern. And I know you've been a part of this too, and the discrimination and bias that there's a conspiracy that Bettman doesn't want Canadians to win a cup. And okay, I know some of you guys out there think like that, but I think that just leads Canadians continuing to just begin to hate on America. And they start acting crazy. They just start acting crazy. And don't tell me it's only a few, because you wouldn't have an entire arena like literally so loud, right?
Fans can boo. They paid their tickets. It's not the greatest look. I don't think that that's what it is. And as I always hear from multiple people that I chat with, keep politics out of hockey, even though it's very hard, because there are moments where hockey can be political. I think just booing just seems kind of an odd way of showing your displeasure, but you paid the ticket. You do what you got to do. Hopefully they figure things out. Now, speaking of kind of politics, it sounds like the IIHF will continue to ban Belarus and Russia from the 2025-2026 season from competing in international competition. They're going to assess it next year. But the problem is the Olympics are next February. What is that going to look like? Because it'll be interesting how things go. And sending out a big hi to Hans, who I know was at the Oilers game. I'm sure he had a blast with the Maple Leafs in town. All right, Evan, we got
you didn't mention, we need to counteract that though. Chicago cheered during the Canadian anthem. They were positive during that time. And so I think, and right now there's a big thing that they're making a push. In fact, a former guest last season, Tab Bamford, who actually was on, is making a big push behind the media with the Bleacher Report. He's just saying, guys, let's get out there. And during the Oilers game on Thursday night, let's show Canada how we respect their nation, right? And so not everybody's the same. I believe I didn't know this, but you said, was it Nashville who also did the same, or was it another team?
It was Nashville in one of the games.
And so props up to all you Americans, and many of you are watching the game. And by the way, I know you have a hate for some of the Canadian teams in Nevada, but guys, hey, there's a lot of you. You're our number one state in the U.S. Cheer on the Canadian teams when they come. Prove to them that the whole country is not about actually booing an anthem just because they're upset at Canada's reaction. Show them who's better.
Now, Evan, I ask you all the time about Montreal. You get sick about hearing about Montreal, right? But I know you've been following a highly touted prospect for that team, Jacob Fowler, who's a goalie out in Boston College. And he's put up some impressive stats given that he is a young prospect and he's playing. So 17 wins, 0.938 save percentage, really good, and 1.63 goals against. He's been an undisputed top goaltender in the NCAA. Your thoughts on what this guy can bring? Because Montreal seems to be loaded, and I mean loaded, with great goaltending prospects.
Yeah, they are. People aren't recognizing, including myself over the last while, as I'm dug deeper into their prospects. Them as well, being a little bit, I can't recall exactly. I think it was a third rounder. Don't have the info in front of me. But just imagine yourself, a player. I'd say he probably plays the game a little bit between. He's like a Jordan Binnington in his run year early on in his beginning season, except without the aggression. He has a bit of Kiprusoff in him, in his patience, and he keeps his calm. So, as a goaltender, when you're in goal, a couple things that they teach you is, you're going to repeat the mantra. I'm calm, I'm cool, I'm relaxed, right? I'm calm, cool, and collected. Actually, is the 3 C's. Calm, I'm cool, I'm collected. And he is very collected. He's calm and he's cool. If the goal gets in, he acts like it never went in. In fact, there's sometimes he doesn't even take the puck from his net. He just skates away and he just lets the refs come and grab it or a player be able to take it out of the net. And you know what? Good on him, but good on Montreal, because I don't know, if you're not a fan of Montreal, you're going to be soon. You are going to be soon. But having said that, can we move over to another team? Because I like to touch base on Seattle because there's competition because of Slafkovsky. You guys know Slafkovsky got the first. Slafkovsky, sorry. It's like I've had too many Pepsis tonight. Maybe something's in them. Who knows, eh? Everyone was saying on how Wright just was not a number one. Wright right now is tied 4 points this year with Slafkovsky. So I want you to think about this because he's looking like he was growing, he was developing, he's a bigger player, he's got more opportunity, and Wright has been earning his way in Seattle. So that's the only thing I think. Like Montreal's got a great player there, but I just want to state right now that Wright, however, in Seattle is doing great. He's having, and they're set up, Pavel, over in Seattle. If you're a Kraken fan, I think next year is a rebound for Beniers. But when you think about Wright, he is really starting to pour it on. He's good defensively. Many nights, he's on the right end of the puck. He's not even in on the, say, a goal or getting an assist, but he's in on the play. It's him taking up players, knowing how to play out there. If you ask Bedard when he played with him when he was 16 and Bedard was 15, I'll tell you, Bedard will tell you he's an incredibly smart player. And I believe the pandemic, he was one that got hurt really bad by that. And then think about this. They also got Berkeley Catton, who's playing for the Spokane Chiefs right now. And he also with the Seattle Kraken. Now, he's got 62 points on the season right now. And that has changed. He averaged 3 points a game in his last 5 games. They picked up who is a Washington draft pick, Andrew Crystal, in the trade. And those guys have become a duo. And I'm telling you, Seattle's loading up quietly. But as we mentioned, they have a good chance to be able to pick up probably the top 4 to 6 at the end of the season, just looking at the way things are going to go now. So I'm pretty excited, dude.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Seattle needs to reset. I don't know if this is their year, but continue to build up draft capital. You continue to build those players around Beniers, amongst a few others, the young guys there. I think Seattle needs a little bit more scoring and better goaltending. I know they waived Philip Grubauer. That contract has not aged well. They've struggled a little bit in net. But, Joey DeCourt has really come in and kind of helped stabilize a little bit. I thought that potentially they can compete for a wild card spot, but I know that they've struggled. And with the potential NBA team coming in there, they need to stay competitive and intense because you're competing now for dollars, Evan. And when you're gate revenue driven, close to 50% or around there, you want the best product on the ice. So that's kind of what you're looking for. Now, there's been a lot of talk about a lot of things in NHL, but we also like to talk about things that are beyond the rink. Sometimes you would say they were around the rink. So here we are with Around the Rink.
If you're a fan of hard-hitting, exciting hockey, catch the Kalkaska Battlers.
Around the Rink
It's brought to you by the Kalkaska Battlers. Let them be your local hockey heroes.
So Around the Rink, we know the Toronto Maple Leafs are one of the best teams in the NHL. Original 6, incredible. But what people don't realize is the London Knights are also a very strong, established franchise, Evan. And I want you to kind of talk about what they were able to accomplish once again this season as one of the most powerhouses in the OHL.
They were able to punch their ticket to the 2025 playoffs already.
Wow.
The London Knights are a monster of a team. They always have been behind the Hunters. And so this year, they're ready to go. And if you actually look at some of the players, they got Easton Cowan, they got Denver Barkley, Oliver Bonk, Sam Dickinson. And that's just to name a few of the great players that they have over there. If you're able to catch any CHL live hockey, if you watch it, or if you're able to find even any YouTube clips, guys, go check out what's happening. Go to the site, follow some of the stats. Go to TSN or Sportsnet, follow all the statisticals around it, and you're going to find some interesting information. If you even do a search around the London Knights at some point, I think I love to be able to get someone around the management team of the London Knights. That'd be like something I'd like to do in a couple months if we can get someone on, just to talk about the wild history and the actual numbers that are so impressive, bud.
100%. So go check them out if you're in the area. They're a great team to watch. A lot of offense, a lot of firepower. Super fun jerseys. I love their colors. I love the logos. Can't get any better. Now, speaking of some more junior and young teams, the USHL Youngston and Muskegon. They were previously denied USA Hockey, but they want to protect NAPD, so they don't want them to have with 2 less teams to play against with only 50 players because they believe that's too expensive. Did you want to touch on that at all?
Sure. Yeah, they're protecting the national development players group there. I always get it wrong when I'm saying it, really. So what it is they got two teams and they play in different tournaments, but specifically Musqueam and Youngstown trying to get into the OHL. Now, we heard they got denied. Now, I don't know what USA Hockey is thinking when they did this, because they weren't thinking very far out and trying to have a discussion. They're just trying to protect themselves. I feel they made a reactionary call. They're upset about things, just like the CHL did with hockey, not CHL, Canada did, because they were upset at people going non-sanctioned outside of Canada with the BCHL. Well, and that's why they've extended the deadline. By the way, if you guys go back to some older shows, I'm not going to get too much into that, but I'm going to explain some stuff in a little bit around that. Okay, what has happened? Both these teams, they want to move into the OHL, and I'm going to say right now, it's going to happen. Now, let me tell you what's happening. They have hired someone who practices litigation for sports law and antitrust. Now, the person they have hired has won several cases, and let me just tell you, they're so prestige. They are the representative of Tom Brady and Deflategate representative, and this needs all dealt with before the USHL combines. So that means this needs to be settled in the next 2 to 3 months here. And I'm telling you, it's coming down. The USHL is going to lose these teams. They're not going to get money for it. What they need to do is get prepared, because the hockey world has changed. They've been getting 50,000 plus for these players that are transferring. BCHL is letting the players go. There's USHL players they're trying to hold on to so desperately because they're trying to protect the national development team, the NDPT. And anyway, so this is going to get interesting, and we're definitely going to keep you guys updated on what's happening around the league, around this area.
Wonderful news. So keep in touch for Two Guys in Hockey Talk, because we will be reporting on it. Now, it sounds like the QMJHL is looking to expand. Can you give us any insights into this?
There's a lot of talk around a lot of different expansions. In fact, they're one of the leagues in the CHL that worked hard to recruit a lot of the BCHL because they've lost a lot of players. But let me just say, they are working right now in New Hampshire right now. There's an arena ready to go, and I have it on good. I trust the word that's happening. They are about to add a team in New Hampshire. So look out for a new team. The arena's ready. Everything. The planning, that team, if they can't make it happen this coming season, they will be in the following season for sure. And then also look for news. I could see them expanding within the next 3 to 4 years by at least 3 teams.
Okay, interesting. So keep an eye out for that. Now, there's some major juniors that took 40 plus from the BCHL, especially those going to Div 1 in the NCAA. Hasn't happened in the CJHL or the USHL. Why is that? What's going on there, Evan?
Okay, so the CJHL, I'm not going to get into all the back details, guys, and the USHL have agreements in place for transfer and movements. Plus, they're all sanctioned players with Hockey Canada, Hockey USA. But otherwise, they could be bolting from CJHL and USHL also to the major junior hockey, which is, by the way, the CHL. The CHL is going to be the place. They're going to have all the power and all the control. But this is what's going to happen now. I'm going to give you guys some heads up. Things are starting to open up now. Players who are 20 in their 20 year who got cut from major junior could likely be heading to the BCHL next year or to the CJHL. So if they want to stay within sanctioned or non-sanctioned. Essentially, what's likely going to happen here from everything that I am gathering in junior A hockey, it's going to become a developmental league now for the CIS, for the Canadian College Hockey now. Because remember, the Canadian College Hockey is going to lose players that now can play in the CHL longer and in other places or NCAA. They couldn't play before. There wasn't always possibilities. Now, this gets a lot deeper because essentially the best 20 people in the CHL are likely going to move south, though, likely to the North American Hockey League, the NAHL. I know you guys might be getting confused by all these leagues, but that is also a non-sanctioned, so it's not under Hockey USA. they are still, the NHL will be the league that moves the most 20-year-olds into Div 1 NCAA in large numbers. They will be the largest one going. Now, there's another league that you guys are probably not familiar with called the NCDC, and they are probably one of the best player developments out of the U.S., and they are going to be capping 20-year-olds at 12 per team. That wasn't like that before. And they are already working with younger players, though, to develop them and move them up, though, to major junior hockey. So the NCAA development also is growing, especially at Div 3 levels, where I'm still working on some details. The timing's getting hard. I'm looking at even connecting to one of the board of governors. There's talk of hockey, Div 1, Div 3, moving into some major areas. But there is more expansion in Div 3, and there's going to be a surprise coming, by the way, from what is called the Eastern Hockey League. And I'm going to hopefully be able to announce that in the next week to 3 weeks.
Okay, so tune in for that information because that's going to be great. Now, we're going to finish off with the KHL. I know you've talked about distributing record funds to clubs 3x3, and I know you wanted to give a quick update about Ivan Devanov.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's good news. The KHL has paid out a record. Now, again, it's in rubles, but they have paid out a record 1.175 billion, rubles specifically, and to its member clubs for the 2023-4 season. Now, that is the largest payout since the league began distributing in 2015 for the last 10 years. So that is a really good news for the KHL in spite of everything else that's happening. If you do follow KHL hockey, and by the way, there are still a lot of Canadians and some Americans that are playing over there, plus people outside of Russia in that league. The other thing the KHL is doing is they have what's called in the midseason or partway through their season, a KHL 3x3. Now, they just finished Salavat won round 7 of the KHL 3-on-3 on February 5th, which is technically yesterday for them, today for us. It is a new format that has been introduced by the KHL. And what they're doing is 3-on-3 like the NHL's overtime. They play games in that manner, which is 3-on-3. It's becoming quite the phenomenon, but they're allowing their teams to do a tournament. This is very European soccer. Other groups do that, or I guess world football, where they do these little tournaments in mid-season, which I would love to see something mid-season like they're doing the First Nations, but do other things around just teams and special things. It's something different. I know it's a much bigger season. And the other thing you did mention about Demidov, I just want to say, man, that guy keeps producing. Right now, he is ranking higher than all the other Russians at his age that's still developing in the KHL. He's only his first season since being drafted. The other day, he just got a hat trick. Go check out all the highlights. I'm telling you, he's playing better defensively. Montreal has a keeper there. I'm actually looking at this, and I wonder if he's going to be a better all-around player, which I did not. I thought it was possible, but I didn't know if he could do it with the development. But he's really won them over with the coaches, and he just keeps producing. And the last thing I want to mention is look out for a goalie. I haven't looked into the details in his contracts, but Zach Fucali, who was initially drafted by the Montreal Canadiens, he was man of the week again for goaltender. Man, again, over and over, he is playing lights out hockey in Russia. He did well last year in his coming out season, doing very good again. I really wonder if he makes a return to the NHL, even as a solid backup, like, as a 1B at some point. Oh, last thing. Can I make one more mention? We didn't talk about this. The PWHL, I could almost do a rant. Why the heck are they selling $200 to $300 a ticket in Canada, and you can buy tickets for $30 to $50 in the U.S.? Canada, smarten up if you want to move the game of hockey, and PWHL, don't allow that kind of crap to go on. That's ridiculous, man.
That's fair. That's a semi-rant of the night and a little info around the rink.
If you're a fan of hard-hitting, exciting hockey, catch the Kalkaska Battlers.
Around the Rink
Is brought to you by the Kalkaska Battlers. Let them be your local hockey heroes.
Kalkaska Battlers, great team. They're coming up here on Saturday, February 15th for a game versus the Mobsters at 7 p.m. If you're in the area, go check them out. They are phenomenal. They've got some good hockey. All right, Evan, that's been some pretty insightful stuff around the ring, but I know you like numbers. I don't like numbers. I was never good at math. math was never part of the job description of joining Two Guys in Hockey Talk. I knew two because I was one, and I know that you're the other one, and that makes two. But we're going to get into a little bit around by the numbers.
Puckpedia, the ultimate source for your NHL salary cap information, player contracts, team cap hits, transaction news, and injury news.
By the numbers.
Now, thank you, Puckpedia, for being a part of this, because I spend several hours throughout the week on Puckpedia looking up stuff. It's a fun site ever since Cap Friendly went down, and I think they have done a good job. We even interviewed one of the owners, so go check that out at the previous season, season 6. I think it was episode 2 or 3. Go check it out. Now, Evan, we wanted to talk about the cap salary. It's going to go up. It's being reported by Elliot Freeman, amongst others, that it's going up to 95.5 next year, potentially, and 104 the following year. So that 26, 27, and then 27, 28, 113 million.5. Now, everyone's saying, whoa, those are big numbers. It's not in comparison to the other big leagues, but it's needed. Escrow has been paid off. Players are ready to get paid. Draisaitl got his big bag. Mikko Rantanen is looking at it. So is Mitch Marner. Your thoughts on the salary cap going up so high and what it means for the league, especially since it's being reported that some teams, specifically in Canada, with the way that the Canadian dollar is standing, oof, I don't know if we want to pay that much, and oof, I don't know if we can afford it, given that it's a little bit lower than we expected.
Yeah, isn't that going to be a tough one if you're dealing with 30 to 35% difference in rates? So, like, if you think about it, 100 million is going to be an additional 30 to 35 million for a Canadian team because it's all in U.S. numbers. They're going to have to find a way to change that cap number. It's already bad enough that they've been doing this for years, so they're at a disadvantage in their way they pay players because they have to have more income than a U.S. So groups like the Rangers are far ahead already, right?
Well, the original 6 often do well, but it's the smaller markets.
Well, you got to wonder about Chicago, though. They've been struggling for a while here, though, since the Cups. They seem to be.
There's ebbs and flows to it, and I think it's more so teams like Winnipeg, which we talked about at the beginning of the season. How
are they going to survive?
Struggled to even sell their arena, which was the second smallest prior to last year when Arizona was still in. Right, like it was tough getting people in the building and selling season.
I will say this: it also means unless there's 1 or 2 weak teams. Generally speaking, it also means teams like Winnipeg are making more money than they've ever made before.
100%. So, I think one of the reasons why is Arizona is no longer there, so there's no subsidy needed for that team. Given that I was at the arena, Evan. You know, we did an interview there, we did a live show there with Barry Keegan, but it was 5,000. It was a university arena. It wasn't the best. Now, I know you wanted to talk about a little bit. We talked a little bit of politics, but with the tariffs, which are really hurting the NHL right now, and again, this could change on a dime. There's a lot of moving parts. We are not a political show. We are not claiming anything, but it sounds like the premier of PEI was considering scrapping a multi-million-dollar NHL deal to fight the U.S. Now, the deal essentially was to bring in the NHL awards show to Charlottetown. They were supposed to host it last year. It went to Vegas. I get why. The Sphere is a beautiful place. You can talk about it, Evan. But you want to promote the game. You know, you want to have hockey nights, Hockey Town, as the Hockey Night in Canada crew like to do. They did it in Canmore this year. It was beautiful. But your thoughts on just kind of the impact to some of these smaller communities who are trying to grow the game in other ways, given that they may not have an NHL team?
Well, first of all, I think they're just going to lose that deal because someone else will pick it up. That's actually a really ridiculous political stand because right now you want to promote the cash flow for your community. That's a very unique situation they have. So I'm actually kind of shocked at something like that. But yeah, I think it's tough. But I think right now with tariffs, until everything gets discussed politically and things come down, you just got to hold your guns and not overreact right now, like you saw in Mexico. Right? Like within a day, it's like everything gets put on hold because things are moving. It's all political, and political meaning that it's all about playing chess in real life with people's money and people's lives.
You know what I'm going to compare it to? It's too much of a long review. Okay. Just go with it. Just make a decision. Okay. We don't need video review nonstop from all the different angles. Just make an executive decision, whether right or wrong.
That sounds good.
Now, AHL news. Matthew Savoy, who's an Edmonton prospect, has won the fastest skater at the last competition. He's a former WA champion and Ed Chenoweth Cup winner. Your thoughts on what he was able to do, given that he was able to do a full lap around the rink, NHL rink, of course, because European's a little bit bigger, at 13.654 seconds.
Yeah. Well, and actually, if you think about that, right, he did it in 13.654, 16.54. Barely. He was only like about 1/1000th of a second slower than Connor McDavid in last year's win in the NHL All-Star game. So, I mean, no one knew, I don't think, in the Oilers organization, this guy could dazzle that well. He got a goal and a couple assists. Good on him. I think he's developing the right way. This is a situation of a guy. I know Zach Benson, I felt, got rushed too quick in Buffalo. They didn't move quick on Savoy. I think they were cautious, too many of the same player. So they moved on. They needed a guy that could win center, the third line, play in Ryan McLeod. They got what they wanted. But do the Oilers have what they need? Just be patient, Oiler fans. Just be patient, organization. And very well, this could be at least a second-line player for you. And he's obviously got speed to play with the team.
100%. And finally, numbers are a great game, but not when it comes to suspension. And so Ryan has been suspended 10 games for his kind of roughing, quote-unquote, where he went in with his stick after a face-off in the zone against Tim Stutzla. He had an in-person hearing, so we knew it was going to be a pretty high number. He's a repeat offender. It was not a pretty look. Thank goodness Tim Stutzla is okay. I don't like this. I understand Ryan Hartman plays on the edge. It was not a good play. Like, you don't bang a guy's head into the ice with your stick to win a face-off draw. I wish they threw a few more games at him, but whatever. 10 is 10. It is what it is. I didn't like that. I think it was very unnecessary, and I want to get that over again. It could be a rant.
I know there's so many rants right now with what's going on. And if you think about this, if you look at his prior suspensions, he is reckless. So I totally agree with that. So
he is appealing it. So we'll see what happens if the commissioner potentially reduces it. They probably won't. But if they do, it's only a matter for his paycheck, because he's losing close to $487,000 on this alone, which often that money goes to the Players Emergency Assistance Fund. And don't look now, but Ottawa's in third in the Atlantic. They are rolling, and they don't even have Allmark and net. So that's been impressive. However, Minnesota is getting healthy. They did pick up today Villa Hinostroza off of waivers. And they've got Marcus Johansson after that ugly hit from McDavid into that elbow coming back here, along with Jared Spurgeon. So that team's getting healthy. Kirill Kaprizov's still out for a bit more, but it looks like they're getting healthier. They're going to bring it. So that's by the numbers.
Puckpedia, the ultimate source for your NHL salary cap information, player contracts, team cap hits, transaction news, and injury news.
By the numbers.
Now, we have gone overtime, but we have a very important final thought we wanted to talk about. So we are known as Two Guys in Overtime, but Two Guys in Overtime love talking hockey history.
The Kalkaska Battlers presents
Hockey history.
Catch the Kalkaska Battlers as they compete in the APHL. Check the skills, speed, heart. Make sure you catch a game and experience the thrill of live hockey. Go Battlers!
When it comes to history, there is none other better to represent the game when it comes to goal scoring than the Rocket Richard, right? Who wins the Rocket Award each year. And so that is the Rockets 50 and 50. Maurice the Rocket Richard. This guy scored, if you think about this, I just want to bring you back to the Montreal Canadiens. He scored 50 goals in 50 games. This is before Gretzky came. It was a different era in the original six during the 1944-45 season. Now, it was a feat that captivated the hockey world, and that record stood for decades. It cemented his legendary status. But I want to give you a little history on this guy. He was born into a very poor family during the Great Depression. and he experienced hardship early in his life. A lot of people actually believe that these experiences is what contributed to his fierce determination and competitive spirit actually on the ice. Now, I got to give you some news if you don't know much about the Montreal Canadiens or the great Rocket Richard. During a game against the Boston Bruins, Richard was struck in the head by a high stick. And in retaliation, he attacked the Bruins defenseman, and I believe his name was, the way you say it would be, Hal Leko. And when he hit him with his stick, and then what happened is he punched the lineman, Cliff Thompson, in the face, knocking him unconscious. That's Rocket Richard. So NHL, the president at the time was Clarence Campbell was his name. He deemed this incident unacceptable, and he suspended Richard for the remainder of the entire season. Now, the following day, and this is where hockey history and the political landscape changed in Quebec, on March 17th, and that year, the Canadiens' next game against the Red Wings, Montreal fans erupted in riots. So the fans, they're outraged by his suspension. They threw objects at Clarence Campbell, who's actually in attendance at the game. A tear gas bomb was set off in the arena during that, and the game was actually forfeited. Riots even spilled out into the streets of Montreal, causing the significant property damage and injuries. And that led to a big political change, that there was discrimination against the French people. And so it actually created the landscape that we see here today. But folks, that's a little bit of hockey history. You muted.
The Kalkaska Battlers presents
Hockey history.
Catch the Kalkaska Battlers as they compete in the APHL. Check the skills, speed, heart. Make sure you catch a game and experience the thrill of live hockey. Go Battlers!
I know I muted myself. I'm sorry about that. I put myself on pause. It happens. It happens to the best of us, and it happens to the worst of us. So that's pretty much our show for tonight. Evan, is there any final thoughts you have?
No, just all good, man. I'm just wanting to say thank you to all, especially on our X following. There's like sometimes anywhere from 50 to 100 of you following on a nightly basis on our live shows. I want to say thank you, as well as all of our other streams we might not have mentioned tonight. I want to thank those that are even coming on later on. You're following over in Europe areas. So, guys, thanks for your followership and your subscriptions and your follows and likes, man. You make the show what it is.
100%. And remember, we are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We love to talk all things hockey. Go follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter /X, and Instagram. Evan, it's been a rig-a-ding-ding-dandy, as you like to say. Or maybe I'm not saying it properly, but my voice is gone. Hockey's on. Let's go watch. You guys enjoy yourself. Cheers. Anything else in the meantime? And
in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.